The Kwame Nkrumah Circle in Ghana's capital Accra serves as home for many street families. Majority of them engage in all sorts of menial activities during the day. But when night falls, it becomes a case of desperation. With a strong stench from the Odo River, 43-year-old Hayford Bosompem is forced to sleep close to this major drain. He says his daily paltry income of 30 Ghana cedis as a bus conductor cannot get him a decent place to rent.
That way they completed this thing where I come see as the small porch there. So I have to come and do this porch so that I get a place to sleep.
Bosompem, whose ambition of becoming a commercial driver now remains a pipe dream, takes solace in drugs, which he admits has been his biggest downfall. He shares the harrowing story of survival at night, especially being at the mercy of the vagaries of the weather.
Let me show you something. Just here now, the bear, overdose mosquito, that one they used to by yourself. Someday, let me check whether I will see you or not. Maybe fall for the water inside. I go used to scratch myself, then I sleep.
This makeshift structure is located under one of the bridges on the Odo River, and this particular structure that you're seeing me is caught in front of the gate houses about 4 people. Now this is where Gabriel Bosompem, together with some other few friends, have been living for the past 8 years. They will have to battle mosquito bites all night, all because they cannot afford a home for themselves. They are hoping that one day they will be able to vacate this premises to get a better place to live.
A drive through town at midnight by the news team revealed how a large number of people turn the frontage of shops into sleeping places, with others taking shelter in very obscure places. For those who sleep in front of shops, their sleeping times are determined by the shop owners and what time they decide to close for the day. Many of the street families are compelled to pass the night huddled to each other, with babies as young as 3 months old.
This particular spot where I find myself is a bus waiting point where a number of homeless people have actually taken as their homes. Let me try and engage a few of them who have been here. Ma, Patriot is saying. For how long now has he?
Emrebi ekwo me bedaha. Sabre me fanse na menyem fifbon.
I came here when I was carrying my 5th child. I was sleeping here at night and trading in a day. I am here to make some money, then occasionally I send it home.
Me beda ofsa me beda me ye we na me boaboa yi kakra me ho ebi manifo na me de amana no say me ba na man kra me mama.
Always been difficult because I don't have anybody for Accra. I be alone. Anytime I'm a hustle because the time I will get the money, it's hard for me to get. I don't have anybody. First, the work I'm doing, the work spoil. I don't have any work again. Now, I don't know what I have do now.
It is 6:45 a.m. and as many prepare to work amidst the city's hustle and bustle, 24-year-old Akwesi Boafo is fast asleep. This old tattered mosquito net and dirty clothes serving as sheets are all he had to keep him cozy throughout the night. Before setting out to town to make ends meet, he lights up some sticks to warm his leftover rice, which he had to eat without any sauce. Akwesi Boafo tells me he traveled from Asinfosu in the central region to Accra 6 years ago for greener pastures. He says living on the street of Accra is synonymous to being put in a lion's den, recalling how he lost his right eye during an altercation with a fellow street boy.
He threw an orange at my eye, and because I didn't have money for medication, I lost my right eye.
He also recounts how a car knocked him down at night on his way to where he takes shelter, leaving him in pain even after seeking help of a traditional healer 3 years ago.
A car knocked me down at the roundabouts. I really suffered going through the healing process.
Akwesi survives in Accra by scavenging for used bottles and scraps, which he sells to scrap dealers and recycling companies. Akwesi is not the only young man struggling on the streets of Accra. On top of the Atomic Junction Bridge, we found another young man who had decided to live in this makeshift structure. He has to climb up these pillars to get to where he sleeps. Uncomfortable with the cameras capturing him, he yelled at the news team with threats. 24-year-old visually impaired mother of 3, Felicia Azeloko, who appears heavily pregnant, tells me how her hopes of a better life in Accra have been dashed. She came all the way from Bolgatanga in the Upper East region of Ghana. The harsh reality of city life has dealt her a big blow, unable to fend for her children without begging on the streets.
Mommy, you want to school for the getting a
I used to school in the northern region before I lost both parents. I had no other choice than to come to Accra to seek greener pastures.
Her 11-year-old son, Richmond Evans, hopes to go back to school with his siblings, who have all now resorted to begging to survive, sometimes under life-threatening conditions.
I left school because I have to assist my visually impaired mother to beg on the streets. They sometimes get 25 or 30 Ghana cedis a day.
In June 2015, a flood and fire disaster claimed almost 200 lives. Those who live and survive on the streets were said to be the most vulnerable. According to the GHOne project, out of the population of over 30 million, there are 100,000 people homeless on any given night. Clearly, the majority of these homeless persons have limited employment opportunities, a situation that could fuel insecurity, according to experts. Richard GHOne is a development advocate. He finds the trend very problematic, calling for urgent pragmatic steps to stem it.
For most of these young people, what they need, most of them want jobs. They want sustainable jobs. And so it's very important that we begin to look at what social interventions look like also for the youth. I mean, streetism or finding homeless youth, it's not only something only in Ghana. It's all over the world. But I think the difference is that in some developed countries, there are some social interventions that aim to provide vocational and practical skills with the hope of getting some of these young people out of the street into finding jobs that they can provide for themselves or provide for their basic needs. And so in the long run, some of these social interventions of providing vocational skills, training, get these young people out of the street. So it's very important that we begin to look at such measures and to begin to think about the economic impact of doing nothing.
Some African countries like Kenya have created a Street Families Rehabilitation Trust Fund, SFRTF, to coordinate and develop capacity, mobilize resources to facilitate and monitor rehabilitative, reintegrative and preventive programs for street families. At inception, more than 6,000 children and youth were removed from the streets and placed in rehabilitation centers across the country. More than 1,200 children have been registered and are receiving various services like counseling, referrals, recreation activities, nutritional support, reintegration and refacilitation to access education and vocational training in Kenya through the fund, with more than 2,000 other children rehabilitated and enrolled in various primary schools across Kenya. In Ghana, the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection in 2017 launched the Operation Get Off the Street Now for Better Life project to address streetism, but it has yielded very little results. The lack of resources, homes, and the upkeep of homeless and vulnerable children who have been picked from the streets is a major hurdle, undermining the capacity of the various metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies (MMDAs) in Accra. Experts believe when holistic measures are put in place to address the increase in rural urban migration fueled by unemployment, many young people living on the streets like 24-year-old Akwesi Boafo would have better abode and will not become liabilities and sometimes threats to the nation's security. GHOne Asidiba, GHOne News, Accra.